Back America, we have been chronicling for the last 3 years on this show and at justthenews.com the extraordinary and incipient rise of anti-Semitism made incredibly worse by the heinous acts of October 7th. Since then, now, even on our own soil in America, what started as a protest and ugly movement of words is now moved into extraordinary violence, whether it was in Boulder, Colorado this past weekend or before that, outside a Jewish museum here in D.C. just 2 weeks ago, where two young Israeli embassy workers were gunned down. The question is, how do we stop this? Joining us now, a foreign policy expert, political strategist, and member of the Dean's Advisory Board at Columbia University's School of International and Public Affairs, which has been an important part of this discussion. He's joining us right now, Harley Littman. Harley, good to have you on.
My pleasure. Happy to be here.
All right. You were here yesterday. There was a very important meeting at the White House to discuss anti-Semitism, doing what we can at the domestic and foreign policy stage to reverse it. Tell us what you walked away from.
I think the key takeaway is the importance of having sustainability in the efforts of President Trump and his administration to combat anti-Semitism. Because the biggest concern, I think, of the American Jewish community is simply that President Trump has another 3.5 years. And if there isn't executive action in terms of legislation passed in Congress or a statute, the problem is if we get another president the next time, especially if they're a Democrat progressive, they can reverse all the things, good things that President Trump has been doing. So the idea of long-term sustainability combating anti-Semitism was what I would think is the main theme and the main takeaway from the meeting at the White House.
Important, yeah.
Harley, when it comes to these Ivy League institutions, it's hard for me to understand why they are so reticent to root out the anti-Semitism, because it's not good for education, it's not good for campus culture, it's not good for anything that contributes to higher education. Why are they so resistant to it?
Because they have embraced anti-Semitism, whether it's unconscious, subconscious, or conscious. They have accepted it. Harvard's own internal report said, quote, "There's been widespread anti-Semitism at Harvard, and particularly at the School of Public Health and at the Divinity School." And the problem is, if you just look at the statistics, how many professors and faculty members at Ivy League universities would be classified as Republican or conservative? The number is about 3%. So the problem is, where in the past, students would go and get an education where it would sharpen their minds so they could learn different ideas and make decisions on their own, right now they're being indoctrinated by the liberal progressives, which have really taken over these universities, and also by the infusion, we heard about Chinese money earlier on your program, but money from the Muslim Brotherhood in Qatar that has sent billions, not millions, but billions of dollars to these universities to influence the curriculum and who teaches these classes, particularly on the Middle East. So these universities may not even be aware of it consciously, but they are part of the problem because they themselves have anti-Semitic views.
Yeah, it's remarkable. A couple of years ago, the Commission on the Holocaust Museum was working on a paper that was going to tie the DEI mentality to the rise of anti-Semitism and that they're intertwined. Unfortunately, that work never got completed. It was a missed opportunity, but the DEI to anti-American, anti-Israel, anti-Jewish, anti-Semitism crisis we have, there's a pretty direct linear line there, isn't there?
Oh yeah, I think we're still in denial. We are in a war. Radical Islam, not Muslims. The Muslim religion is a religion of peace. And I have many Muslim friends, and we have great respect for each other. And the solution to radical Islam is moderate Islam. But radical Islam has declared war on all the things that we value and who we are, on the Judeo-Christian civilization, on Western values. And we're acting like there's no conflict. We have an issue here, an issue there. There's a worldwide assault on our values and on our civilization. And it starts with the Jews, as it usually does. but it never ends with the Jews. The Jews are the canary in the coal mine to what's going to come later. So it's really incumbent upon our nation to stand up and fight for the Jewish minority here. All minorities, all people need to be protected from violence. And words matter. When you have signs that say Free Palestine, what do you think that means? That's code for the extermination of Jews. There wasn't one Jew in Gaza on October 6th, when the next day they crossed into Israel to rape and murder and mutilate, which is what they did. This is about extermination. And when they talk about genocide, they're projecting. How did this war start? It started because thousands of Palestinians, not Bolivians, not Indonesians, but Palestinians, people say, well, it's Hamas. Yes, but had crossed the border to exterminate every man, woman, and Jewish child they could find, and was nearly succeeding it. You know, a great way to look at this is the reverse in the United States would be, just say a gang from Mexico crossed the border and murdered 40,000 Americans. That would be the equivalent of what happened in Israel on October 7th, a year and a half ago, and took hostage thousands of Americans, including children and elderly, back into Mexico. What do you think that would represent to this country? And what do you think we would do?
Yep.
So Israel is fighting for its survival. And it's a difficult situation. They're not trying to kill innocent Palestinians, but Hamas hides among innocent Palestinians. And it makes the war very challenging for Israel and creates a lot of unnecessary tragedy and deaths.
Yeah, as you said, it doesn't end with Jews. They say, what is it they say in Islam? First comes Saturday, then comes Sunday. Before we let you go, I want to pick your political strategist brain. Democrats, for all intents and purposes, seem to have this segment of society within their own party. It is a political hot potato, but it is frankly undeniable, especially as of recently. What do they do with that?
It's a real problem within the Democratic Party. The liberal progressives, in a very strange way, have embraced the themes of Hamas. And Hamas would be everything that they're against. Hamas is anti-women. It's a religious theocracy. It's corrupt. There's no freedom of press or religion. So there has to be a reckoning within the Democratic Party as to what they stand for, and do they stand for the protection of human rights and equality, or are they hypocrites, like at universities where there's no diversity of viewpoint? You know, they talk a lot about diversity, but not when it comes to education. So I think that they have to deal with this.
Yeah, and members in our own profession, the media, have to do a better job. We too many of the legacy media have been apologists for the hatred, and it doesn't help one bit. Harley, it's such a great honor to have you on the show. We got to make this a more regular thing, but thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.